Hey folks, welcome to the Brendan G channel. In the first part of this video series, Jason, Mike, and I tackle some of the biggest challenges facing natural product retailers and brands today. From the pressures of mass market competition to the evolving roles of online platforms, we break down key pain points and explore solutions. We'll also be introducing Be Well Verify. This is a completely new platform and it's designed to help retailers identify and align with brands that share their values. So let's dive into the video.
I've been in this industry for the better part of 2 decades. And there's, over the years, been a lot of talk and discussion, typically not on stage, sort of sidebar. We're going to be talking about sort of the elephant in the room, if you will. Before I tell you which elephant this is and describe what it looks like and what color and all that stuff, I think I'd like to take you back for a second. So if you'll indulge me, maybe you think about the period of time before you entered this industry, why you're here, why we're all here. I think this will help sort of develop some of our core principles, at least define what they are. I started off in big pharma and figured out pretty quick that was not the place that I wanted to be. That was not the business model that supported the kind of help that I wanted to give people. And I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go from there, right? And then I found this industry, natural products industry, got into supplements, became a formulator. And then I had a couple of friends and family that had some, rather severe ailments. And from that, I decided to ask some doctors that I knew how often they saw this and how do they solve it. And they said, yeah, we see it all the time. And then they said, here's XYZ to solve it. And I said, that's not going to solve anything. They said, yeah, no, that's true. People usually never get better from this stuff. And I said, okay, well, this might be the area where I spend most of my time. I did a little bit of research, and then I ended up going to the health food stores and put together a protocol, and sure enough, they got better. And that began my journey. That's when I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing. It's helping people, putting people first, right? And I suspect, I know this for a fact because I've been out in the health food stores and I've spoken to you, I've spoken to your sales associates, that you have stories just like this. Many of you have much better the stories than I have. You have stories of when you had your own ailments and you had to fix your own problems. And conventional medicine told you the same story. They really couldn't do anything for you. And you ended up going into a health food store and you end up solving your problems. Okay. That began your journey. Then you were dedicated to helping others. Again, putting people first. That's sort of the core principle, and I think that's the common thread that all of us have here. Fair enough to say, right? That ends up becoming sort of, like the mission and the vision for how you do things or what you do and all the decisions that go into it. Times the many days, the weeks, the months, the years, that's sort of the driving force. That's, I think, what this industry used to be years ago. Right? So things have changed a little bit. Let me just go beyond that. This is a very interesting image. Now, about a week ago, Jason ended up forwarding this to me, and I was quite a bit shocked. I don't live under a rock. I do live in New Hampshire. But I didn't realize this transition was so pervasive. But this is not going to shock you because you deal with this every day, right? There's a transition taking place. There's a transition taking place. And you're going to have to tell me whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. I have my own opinions on it, but they're not as important as yours. If I look at this slide, this is, well, much of it's conventional medicine, isn't it? These companies roll up to investment houses, right? BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. They make different decisions, right? So we discussed just a second ago how we make decisions. Right? We are powered by passion based upon our own experiences that are very close to us. These things are perhaps a little different than how these companies operate. Right? These guys have boards, they have stockholders, they've got quarterly targets, I don't know if they operate the same way. So with that, I think I'd like to turn it over to the panel so we can discuss this in a little bit more detail. I think this is something that we should be discussing, and I think that we need to also look at some solutions. But let me share one more slide before we jump into the panel, and then I'm gonna hand it over actually to Micah, because he on this panel is the only person who is a retail store owner. So this is interesting. By the way, very difficult to get statistics in your industry. I don't know why that is, but it's very difficult. Like when I'm specifically talking about the independent store owner. So this is what I have. So when you take a look at natural products industry as a whole, right? We're pretty much appreciating every single year. And just as a quick example here, I have dietary supplements for this past year, and we're looking at about double-digit increase in growth. Now, it's not adjusted for inflation, so we don't really know. That might be flat, who knows? But essentially what's been taking place over the last 10 or 15 years is positive growth pretty much every year, very few speed bumps. So the question is, how are you guys doing? Is this affecting you the same way that it's affecting the rest of the industry? Because that's kind of a critical question. And I would argue that it's not, right? So I know that I don't have a ton of data here, but what I do have, if you take a look at the number of independent retail stores going from 2013 to 2017, which is, that's 5 years within the last 10, so it's a reasonable way of looking at this. You're not increasing. You're not even flat. You're going down in the number of stores. And that's telling. So what if we look at the percentage of sales as a whole? Like what percentage of that total pie are you taking home? Is that increasing or is it decreasing? Or is it flat? And again, we get the same analysis. That's from the last 4 years. You went from 13.1% to 11.5%. So even though the industry is growing, you're shrinking. And as you shrink, so does your influence. And I think this is probably something that we ought to talk about, and I'd like to bring the panel in on this and to expand on this. And I'm gonna go right ahead, Micah. You're the guy here with the store, so.
Oh, I gotta do this one?
Yep. That one's.
Also, just wanted to say thank you for Marcy, Diane, the whole Maho team. We need organizations like this, and so I really appreciate and grateful for Maho. Just giving you a little bit of background for myself. I grew up in a health food store. My parents started a health food store in Kailua, Hawaii. They lived there for 18 years. Then they moved to Wisconsin, and then I never forgave them. I'm just joking. The jokes get worse. So in 2015, I started managing the health food store more and more. In 2016, I helped install the ECRS point of sale system. Before, we were running everything on, basically just a Casio cash register. And then in 2017, I really saw Amazon kind of make its debut. We would have customers in the store just showing their phone, I can get it $5 cheaper, $10 cheaper. And, that was a huge issue. And that really became, I think, the first turning point in our industry was, for us at least, was MAP. We started cutting a lot of brands that didn't have a MAP policy, that wasn't enforcing a MAP policy. We started making new partnerships with brands that did, just because it didn't make any sense for us to just have expensive decor. The first question I would ask with brands is, what is your MAP? The second question I would ask is, what's the quality? And that was just because I can't sell, high-end products if people can get it cheaper on Amazon for 20, 30%. It makes me look bad as a store, and I just encourage people just to buy it on Amazon then. So if the brands really wanted to partner with us, we had these criteria. then COVID happened, and that was survival by the numbers and survival by the brands. So survival by the numbers, I'm sure we can all relate. It was just a giant focus on gross profit margins. You either increase your basket size, you increase your customer count, or you increase your gross profit margins. Those are the three things that we were looking at. Is this off now? Customer count was harder, obviously, because foot traffic was going down. So that really helped us focus on finding brands that had higher gross profit margins. And then survival of the brands. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I would place a PO, 7 pages, and then 5 of them were out of stock, right? And then, but then you would still see the inventory at the big box stores. So I just really felt that a lot of the partnerships that my parents had made with these brands really wasn't valid, I guess, anymore. They were saving the inventory for these mass markets and not for us. And so now I think we're in this second turning point, which I call brand partnerships. As Brendan mentioned, if you're a brand that's in this industry and you're in every single health food store, I mean, you've won, you've made it. And yet, when we see the numbers and they're starting to trend down, how do brands grow? I mean, they have to go into food, drug, mass. Maybe they go to China, India, Mars. I don't know. They have to go to emerging markets. And so, go like this? Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So, let's see. So, I mean, we can't blame them. I mean, we live in a free market, capitalistic society. If they want to grow, they can grow. Absolutely, 100%. But we also have the right and the responsibility to talk about it as well on what brands we want to also partner with. But when brands do this, it degrades the specialty of the store. So one of the reasons why we're losing our influence is just because you can have these brands that are in every mass market and every big box store. So, when they're buying their Flintstones and their, Centrum, they can also buy brand, I don't want to say brands, but they can buy brand XYZ over there, and they don't need to make that extra stop at our stores. So we're losing our specialty. But then looking at this, though, too, if you have brands that are specifically going after a mass market wants cheaper prices. And so the customers are going to suffer at the end of this because you're making a product based off of price and not based off of quality. In 2022, one of the largest brands in our industry, they came out and said, hey, I got a great innovation. We made a cheaper product. It's a gummy. We lowered the potencies. We made cheaper forms, and we, reduced the serving sizes. Isn't that wonderful? And that's the innovation. And then you have other brands that are also starting to, take out the quality forms and start putting in cheaper forms just because they're going after an uneducated supplement buyer. And that's what's going on in the mass market. So I really feel like we're in this transition period right now. We still have leverage. We can still choose what brands to partner with. Now, I'm not saying, for us, we still sell some large brands at our stores and, it still drives sales, right? But we still have the opportunity to promote certain brands that we want to. So there's this really weird thing going on where a lot of these larger brands, there's 2 things, right? At the same time we're having this conversation, many brands are having a conversation on how to get into mass market. That's just what's going on. They're figuring out, how can we get into mass? How can we get into mass? That's the conversation that's going on right now. So they're having that conversation at the same time we're having this conversation. So they want to be in mass market, but they also don't want to lose their footing in your stores, in our stores. If they lose the footing in our stores, they run the risk of another brand gaining momentum in our stores, gaining popularity, and maybe, kicking them off the number 1 spot. So the strategy is for them to maintain a foothold as long as they can, make sure that there's no shelf space available for like new and emerging partner brands. And then as the sinking ship, or as our market share goes down and our influence goes down, then they'll make the full leap into mass market. So right now we have the leverage of choosing what brands we want to partner with and promote while we still have this market share. That's what I have so far. I could keep going, but we could open it up for discussion.
Yeah, just to dovetail off of what Micah said. So you've got some pain points as a manufacturer, as a brand. We actually have some of the same pain points, right? So a lot of us are making certain decisions. Like for instance, Liver Medic's still around because of the health food stores. We were originally a physician brand. So I have a great allegiance to the health food stores. There are certain decisions that I don't make. And that obviously sort of retards our growth. But it's getting more difficult to compete. So you have your competitors that are growing in mass market. We have our competitors that are growing in mass market. It's interesting. There's sort of a confluence of interests here to make sure that we're supporting the right businesses. And I think that some of the companies that you see on the slide sort of taking advantage of the fact that you guys don't all operate in unison. And some of you probably don't feel like you have a whole lot of power. And quite honestly, at an individual basis, you don't. But altogether, you have actually the most influence. And they know this. And I sort of wonder when we're going to make this leap. And that's kind of why we're here. So, yes, please.
Yeah. And it's your fault, right? Because like you have to explain it. But yeah, we run into the same issues. Countless times it's they make a deal with Walmart. Walmart says, hey, I got a $5 million PO, but I got to get it at this price because that's where my customers want to buy it for. And you go on, it happens countless times. And yeah, 100% agree with you. It does not make us, the health food store, look good at all. And the customer, they're not aware. They're not looking at the back of the supplement. In fact, they're not looking at it. But yeah, a lot of these companies, they're purposefully trying to trick the consumer because the health food store creates the demand, the health food store educates the customer, the health food store builds the brand up, and then after 10, 15 years, then the sale goes to Walmart, the sale goes to Target. And they're like, hey, thank you so much for all of your hard work. I really appreciate it, but we're going to make big bucks now at Food Truck Mass. So yeah, those are the partnerships that a lot of times we have now. That's what's going on. 100% agree. So we have started, I call it a chopping block program. I'll say this part first, and then I'll answer the question directly. So the chopping block program is we identify different partner brands that we want to have. It's based on different criteria. And then if it's a partner brand, we do discontinuations based off like a year or maybe even 2 years because a brand needs time to grow. It needs a little bit of sunlight, needs some soil, needs some fresh air. So we're not always, it doesn't sell in 90 days, it's discontinued. We're not like that. Then there are middle of the tier brands where they're not the biggest partner that we want to partner with, but they're doing their best. And then there's brands that we definitely don't want to partner with. Brands that we don't want to partner with, we discontinue after 90 days. So what's happened is we've been able to slowly reduce the SKU count. So let's just say we have 100 facings, and then over time, you can't discontinue overnight, or at least this is my opinion. We didn't discontinue overnight the best sellers for some of these non-partner brands. We put them on the bottom shelf, and we still had them. And every single time a customer would come to that area, they would be on the bottom shelf, but then we would have our partner brands eye level, and we really focused on education and training. And that just takes time. We still sell many non-partner brands. They're on the bottom shelf, but it's a long-term strategy. So yeah, every 6 months, every 90 days, 6 months, and then a year is we look at the sales, and then we start slowly reducing the facings. And that leaves just room for more shelf space for partner brands.
Testing, testing.
Hey, there we go.
I got it working. If you guys want to keep that one, I can pass this around for questions.
Yeah, I think Kelly wanted to say something. Yeah? Oh, okay.
If you want to help out.
Yep. So, just as a temperature check here, what we've discussed so far, is this resonating with people? Just a show of hands. Does this make sense to anybody? Okay. People think it's a problem? Yeah. Okay. I don't know how to run a store. I've never run a store. I'm not going to give you advice. That being said, I think what Micah was discussing made a lot of sense. Like you can't just go and, take, I don't necessarily want to call out brands, but you go ahead, play a game of Twister up there, choose one. You can't pull that out of your store because your customers want to see that stuff in there. I get that. But I don't know. I mean, have a conversation with these people. They come up to the front and at the register, and they've got a product in their hand, and you tell them, "Hey, look, did you know that this company is owned by, pick your favorite pharmaceutical company, for instance," and then you end up giving them the alternative, right? It's an education. Sorry, go ahead.
So our store's been around since 1970. So 54 years. So we've kind of been in the trenches since the beginning. And one thing I think that we're not really paying attention to is now it's more about health coaches and functional medicine and naturopaths and all these people that are getting these certifications, but they're using like things like full script, ways to be able to get our products too. So I think that it's like the reason we're all here is for education. And that's what we really need to focus on. It's like, our job is to educate and tell them the why. Yeah, I think that's really where we shine.
Yeah. So yeah, I see it as like a scale. So you have, on the left side of the scale and then on the right side of the scale. The left side of the scale represents Walmart, food, drug, mass. The right side of the scale represents doctors' offices, chiropractors, holistic practitioners, one-on-one consultations. So you have natural channel, which would be maybe Sprouts or Fresh Time, and then you would have health food stores. So in our area, there's one of these larger natural channels or natural chains, and they can't even compete like that. They're starting to bring in all of these other mass market products. It doesn't look like a natural health food chain anymore. It just looks like a conventional grocery store now because they can't even compete in that market. So they are transitioning more to like the left side of the scale, food, drug, mass. Health food stores too, we're kind of more on this right side of the scale, but it's still kind of gray. I agree with you. In my opinion, we have to go more to the right side of the scale. We have to dig our heels into education, dig our heels into more one-on-one consultation. I think that's, we have to become more specialty. We were so, like the health food industry, in my opinion, was, we were always specialty. But now when you can find these brands in every street corner and gas station, it makes us look not special when, you have cigarette A and Flintstone vitamin B next to this brand that we sell. It doesn't make us look good. So I think the future is, I would try to do practitioner brands if you can, or with practitioner brands, there's not so much of a difference. It's just labeling and marketing. So you can find brands that are still specialty and dedicated to the industry. You don't have to get, practitioner brand A. But I do believe that, education one-on-one, becoming more of an individual health destination is I think where we're going.
I know on that note, I carry, I think 85% of the physician's lines. And I can honestly tell you, we would be in trouble right now without those. Big trouble. And that's just the bottom line.
can't buy. They're specialty brands, and they have to come back to your store for those. Yeah, that's where we're all heading. Is if it's partner or if it's specialty brands, partner brands, practitioner brands, or consumer brands that just aren't in every single market. You want the customer to try to you have to get that second purchase. Selling one time is fine, but you want to get that second purchase. You got to get that repeat purchase.
Wow, this is interesting. I like this conversation. So this actually, oh, yeah, okay. Go right ahead.
Educate our employees, but also educate our customers. It comes down to a lot of acuity. People come in here asking for, I have this, I have that, and we don't treat, cure, diagnose anything. However, there are tools that we do use. And I know for our store, Dr. Tannenbaum Cures A through Z is a great app that we use, that if we feel a little over our head, or if we have a new employee that is still kind of grabbing the ropes, there's a abundance of information there the free part of it is like half the app is open, and then like $1.99 you get the whole thing. So I can't tell you how many times that you put the education back in the customer's hands in those situations. Terry Naturally does a great job, and I could speak for Terry Naturally all day long, but some great educational resources that everyone leaves our store with some kind of literature day in and day out. So when it comes down to the educational part, that's the part that we really drive. Even if it's our own education that we're like, I really need to, be more sharper on that topic, and taking that from that customer standpoint, but giving those apps and those tools that they can feed themselves as well. But on the other side of that as well, as far as vendors and vendor relations and MAP policy, is holding their feet to the fire with the MAP policy. And if it's to our 90-day plan to discontinue their line and be able to, hold their feet to the fire and read that MAP policy to our sales rep, or make that, communication, that those emails getting sent out, that we know what their policy says, and that we encourage to work with them, but we want to adhere by their MAP policy. And if it's not a mutual communication, then unfortunately it's, time to make some moves.
Another problem that I'm finding is that they're claiming that these MAP policies aren't being followed, right? Because they have no control over what somebody's doing, or what Walmart's doing, or things like this. So, this is where you see this 40% off on lines that you're carrying. So like they're claiming that they don't have control over the MAP policies. And it's pretty hard to compete at 40% off retail.
That's definitely something that I can address. I don't want to come down too hard on them. How should I say this? I'm not going to cut them any slack, that's for sure, because it's causing you a lot of pain. And there actually is an easy way to enforce those things. You have to be the brand registered owner on those platforms. And you have that kind of relationship, and of course they're getting paid a lot of money. So you end up becoming a priority in their department. They have a whole department dedicated to you guys, not you guys, the brands. And I don't know, I'm gonna get myself into some trouble here, but they probably have more influence over those things than you might think. Now, at the sales and broker level, they may not know these things, but at the owner level, they can certainly push prices around. They have more control than I think that maybe you guys know about. I think that's probably the way to say this, to be fair.
I don't know. When I bought a refrigerator, it was all the same prices online. Or when I bought a dishwasher. So like the rest, not in our industry, but there's another word for it called UPP, Universal Price Point. When you buy a bed mattress, they've already figured this out in other industries. The universal price point, you go online, just type in, Samsung refrigerator or whatever, and it's all the same prices. And then the retailer can find another way to kind of lower the price by throwing in some kind of extra thing. I think when my father-in-law bought a mattress, he got the frame for free, right? So they were kind of able to circumvent the map. But I think what you're talking about, and it's one of the brands up here that I'm not going to say, but they don't want to regulate 1P websites. And so what I mean by that is if they sell on Amazon, directly to Amazon, and Amazon is selling it themselves, it's Amazon's own website that's selling on Amazon. So it's their own website. So it's 1P. So they don't have to abide by MAP. Now, if it's a 3P, right? So if it's, John who creates an Amazon listing and goes on Amazon and sells the brand, then he would be considered a 3P partner, a third party partner. John is going to be subject to MAP policy. But if the brand sells directly to Amazon, it's 1P on their own website, then they're not going to regulate it. So it's just kind of it's just sneaky. That's all it is. Just a sneaky way to get around it. Yeah, I don't agree with it. And that's kind of comes down to the whole concept of finding partner brands.
Yeah, I'm going to give this over to Jason fairly soon here, because a lot of this stuff is coming down to solutions, right? Like, it's come up a few times that it would be nice to know some alternatives to some of these brand leaders, right? So the information needs to be in your hands in order for you to make it. And I'll say just one more point to the whole Amazon conversation. All they really need to do is put a QR code on the back of their products, and Amazon will tell them exactly who it is that's selling that product, and they'll prevent them from selling it. So while I respect what you just said, there's an easy way around that, but maybe the manufacturers or the brands don't want to do that.
Okay, can everyone hear me? I just want to say thank you to Brendan and Micah for getting you guys all riled up and make it. Yeah, I think this is a good segue. First, I want to start by saying I don't think you guys realize how powerful you are. You are extremely powerful stakeholders in this industry. And I think the biggest challenge has been is uniting your voice, bringing you guys all together, speaking essentially as one. And when you can do that effectively, change can happen. So today I want to introduce to you just an idea of something that we have been talking about. Think of it as like a proof of concept. And I'd like to share it with you today. So Be Well Verified is essentially a platform, ideally the first internet resource tool where natural product retailers like yourselves can get an overall objective score on how well a brand like mine or Micah's or Brendan's is aligning with what's important to you, with what's important to the industry. So in the many discussions that we've had leading up to this, we identified that there are 4 key criteria that would make up a score. Now, there might be more than 4, and this is where conversations like this are very helpful to us. But we believe that there are 4 criteria that really highlight whether a brand is aligned with the industry. First one is ownership. Who owns the brand? Who's backing the brand? Second is pricing. How are they pricing their products? Is it favorable to the industry? Distribution. And then finally, industry support. So for ownership, we believe that family-owned brands are beneficial to our industry. Whereas conversely, brands that are owned by bigger corporations are not really in our best interest long term. Is there a way to be able to easily identify that? Is there a way for you to be able to easily identify that? Secondly, we believe pricing is critical to the overall success of the industry. Does the brands that you're carrying in your store today have favorable MAP policies? And are they enforced? Are the things that you're pricing in your store today being priced lower on the internet? How do you figure that out? Is there an easy way to figure that out? We believe we're presenting a solution for that. And thirdly, the margin is extremely important to the overall success financially to your store. So if they're offering you a 50% margin, is that something that you can truly capitalize on? Or is the consumer finding it cheaper elsewhere? And then really the margin isn't the margin, right? So it's not a 50% margin if Amazon is selling it much cheaper. And then things like distribution. You have traditional distribution, like is it beneficial for you, the store owner, for the brand to be in things like Threshold, KeHE, Palco. And conversely, are these brands on Amazon or on iHerb? Can they be found in big box retailers or chain drugstores? We're developing a platform that would allow you to be able to instantly identify that. So you would know right away, even before you decide to take the brand on, are they in CVS? Are they in Walgreens? Are they being sold on iHerb? And then the fourth piece of this is industry support. Are these brands that you're supporting you back? Yesterday, I came early and I walked the showroom floor where my booth is. And I saw a lot of people supporting this industry. But I also see a lot of brands that are absent, that are not here. Why are they not here? Why aren't they at Maho and Soho? We believe the brands that are supporting the industry should be here, and they should be rewarded. So the Be Well Verified ultimately will be a resource, a tool for you, where you brands will be scored based on their behavior and support for the industry. But this is not going to be possible without your support. It's actually impossible. So the goal, just to reiterate, is we want to create an objective scoring system based on those 4 core criteria. And that would be a score that would basically tell you guys whether this is a good partnership, this is a healthy partnership. And this is also beneficial to brands, right? So through this program, brands will be scored and rated, and they'll be able to understand, how am I doing? Is this aligned with the industry? Is this aligned with what's important to you? So they'll be able to see what their competitive strengths and weaknesses are. They'll be able to identify, where can I improve? My score is low. Well, you're not going to all the shows. Maybe you should go to more shows. Or your pricing is not favorable. If you improve that, your score would improve. But ultimately, this is a collaboration between both brands and retailers, but it truly starts with you. So the last thing I'm going to ask from you guys today is the call to action. In front of you is a scannable QR code. You scan it, it'll take you to our landing page. This is where we begin. This is where the discussion starts. This is where we come together as one voice. I'm not going to ask you for any money, nor will we ever, but I need your support in the form of an email today. Take a moment, scan it, put your email in there. Let's begin the conversation. You'll get a newsletter email from the group, probably a week from now, and we'll begin to converse with you. And we'll begin to be able to lay out more details about what's important to you and this program. So with that being said, I'm going to turn this over back to Brenda, and we would love some feedback on what's been presented to you.
So, I don't know how many of you have gone to the website there. Any thoughts on, what we've presented so far? Any challenges? You wondering why we're doing this, not somebody else? Yeah, as I said before, there's a confluence of interests here, right? We're getting pushed out too. So it is important, especially that you survive, right? And that you thrive. That's part of our success as well. It just so happens that I think we have the technical expertise. That fellow over there that's talking, Joe, he's got a lot of technical expertise and can understand how to put these databases together and be able to put together a user experience that should be able to give you the information, be easy to search, easy to identify and differentiate because I think what's happening in the industry is there's a bifurcation taking place. You have the most educated folks in the consumer space coming into your stores. That's an opportunity. These other folks that are going food, drug, and mass, they're probably not going to go into your stores, right? But you certainly don't want to lose the other folks. I think this is a real opportunity to reward the companies that are rewarding you and not fund some of the other things that are going on in the industry. That's kind of the makeup of this.
Just want to add something too. I mean, we all get inundated with emails and, brands and like, can you sell my brand? Can you sell this brand? And this is a tool that you could use as a resource to kind of go through all of the BS, right? What is the map? What is the distribution? What's available? Yes, no, point system, very objective. So all of us basically are vetting every brand that we bring into our store all the time. It takes a lot of time, but we have to take care of, the other 100 things that we're doing that had to be done yesterday. And so this is just a resource that we can use to quickly identify partner brands. That's the motivation behind this. You can see, you don't have to do all the research yourself. It's a very objective score. But yeah, it's designed as a tool that we can use as retailers collectively.
I just want to say something real quick. Can you hear me? I personally am so thankful for all three of you because none of you had to take your time to do this. As our stores have been around since the late 60s as well, so we plan to stay relevant. So this is just one tool that we can use to stay relevant. I think it's very important. And yes, we did already scan in, and it's very easy. Once you scan in, all you have to do is answer a couple of questions. So I encourage you to do it as well. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you.
So I don't know how much time we have left because I know Brendan has another amazing presentation, but I'm just curious because I'm trying to read the room. It sounds like there might be some interest in this idea. So scanning the QR code and signing up will give us the feedback we need to either go forward to the next phase of this project or not. So your vote is incredibly important today. So again, if it's something that you think might be beneficial, please sign up. The other thing I want to put out to the group, and anyone can answer this, is is there any of the core criteria that we need to add to? Anything that we might have missed? I would love that feedback. Because again, this is not a tool specifically for me. It's really for you. So there's a section in the sign-up form where you can put your comments, your thoughts. May come back to you later. That's okay. And but we definitely want that feedback.
Yeah. I'd love to hear objections. I'd love to hear some of the questions that you have, some of the concerns that you have, because that's what's going to drive how we structure this and what we start looking for. So if anybody, and I know we just tossed this at you and you didn't have a whole lot of time to prep, but just your initial thoughts about things.
Yeah, I mean, so I always joke. So when a brand goes into food, drug, mass, and they do those trickery things, I want a giant stamp that goes on every product that says "made for mass market," just food, drug, mass verified. I want that because I want the consumer to know that it's not the same product. I really do, because they really try to trick the consumer thinking it's the same thing. But yeah, having some kind of seal. It's definitely, so you would like that. You would like a seal where you have a brand on your shelf and that seal is up there. Yeah. That was, I mean, it was definitely an idea on the, in our whiteboarding session. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. It's an easier way for your staff at the store to identify which are the partner brands to promote. 100%. Yeah, they're not going to memorize that. Yeah. Yep. No, totally agree. It's a great point.
Do you have that graph of all the ownership that we can take home with us? It's everywhere?
Yeah, I think if you Google it.
Can you print it off?
Yeah, so a lot of these things that we're discussing right now, right after this, Joe's going to go ahead and update the webpage, so we'll have a lot of this stuff up there. Go ahead.
How will you be funded? Like how does this get paid for?
Yeah, that's a great question. We haven't quite figured that part out, but I will tell you that whoever we rely on is going to have influence, right? I mean, that's bottom line. That's what the question is. Money corrupts, period. So we're going to have to become nimble, and we're going to have to figure this one out, to be honest. But one of the things that we do not want to do is to be another platform that's paid for by large influencers, because it'll just end up dying on the vine. So it's a concern for us, as it should be.
I think you guys nailed it. You nailed exactly what we've been dealing with. I can give you, we literally got on the phone 2 weeks ago with the national head salesman for Probolin and told him that that partnership was just not a positive partnership at this point. When you're selling it online for less than I can purchase it from you. So you, and all the concerns that you've kind of hit today is having all of our retailers across the country realize that once we have that collective network set in place, that not only do we have power to make sure that all of our values, which are educating people so that they can make those healthy decisions for themselves, right? Putting that network in place where we can actually hold these situations accountable, but also making sure that our groups that we support, such as Maho, Soho, and the rest, are also following in those values as well, and not moving more toward big box retailers and supporting national grocers, for example.
Hey, we just told Provolone we were done too. That's 2. We should all be doing it.
Yeah, this is a really great like bullshit stopper, because I like when enzymatic therapy first went mass many years ago, and I was speaking to the sales manager. He literally said to me on the phone, "Oh yeah, the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing." And I felt like saying, "Wow, did you think I just fell off the potato truck here?" You know, like I couldn't even believe the insultive answers that we've been given by some of these companies. It's just, so to hold this I think is a power that we need, because I don't see, like you might see a few companies that make an effort to do a different label, if they want to go mass. But I mean, we can obviously see there are a lot that don't even give us that much respect after carrying them for 25 years. You know what I mean? And building their brand for them on our dime.
Yeah, I've heard this from stores ever since I got into this industry. For like the last 15 years, I walk into stores and they say, yeah, okay, another new brand. Yeah, we saw you coming. We did this 20 years ago. What are you going to do for me? You're going to change when things get big. You're going to leave us behind. That's exactly what I've heard from, I can't tell you, countless number of store owners. So I understand that standpoint. And If that is the case, that the left hand doesn't really know what the right hand is doing, and I don't know, maybe that's the case, where's the motivation to change? Because it certainly is in their best interest not to, right? So it's really up to you guys to hold them accountable. And it's up to us, I think. But we certainly would like to be the ones that filter through the information to you, that give you the power to make the decision, that give you a voice in this. That's really key, right? Like, this is the age of social media where the users end up driving the information, where it goes, the conversations, all of that stuff. That's really what we want to build. We'll put the structure together, but then we're really going to fade to black. That's really the critical part. How that happens, it doesn't go anywhere unless you guys participate. That's the very first step.
On one of the slides, you showed MAP map. I'm not familiar with that. What does that mean?
So MAP stands for minimum advertised pricing. Essentially, it's a price that you can't see lower than that online. So, for example, a brand will have it's a $10 MSRP, but then they'll have a 20% MAP. That would mean that you would see it $8 online, and you wouldn't see it any cheaper than $8. And so in our stores, we price everything at MAP. Because MAP is the new MSRP. That's my own personal belief. It doesn't make any sense if I price something at MSRP and then it's 20% cheaper on Amazon, because people can buy it on Amazon every day of the week, every week of the month, every month of the year. They're not waiting for deals. They just want it now. So we price everything at MAP. We negotiate the margins with the product manufacturer, and then we do discounting through our loyalty program. That's how we've been able to kind of promote it that way.
I will join in and say I think it is a great idea and will save us a lot of work. I mean, that plus quality issues are my checklist, but it's a lot of time and it's a lot of work, and having it coordinated in with a platform you would trust will be a great help to us. I want to go back to her question about how do you change the consumer's mind about what they're buying, and maybe some other retailers can join in on what they've done. That's been pretty easy for us. I mean, just saying this is now made by Nestle and it is not the same, but you can't make them feel bad if they still want to buy it, because then they don't want to come back. They're still buying something in your store, and you can't make them feel bad or guilty about their choice. But I'm going to give one other example, specific. So Vital Protein is our best collagen, sold the lights out on it, right? And then it was it's at Sam's Club for less than my cost, and they were doing a lot of other things I didn't like. So Natural Factors came with their awesome collagen, which is a better product. They were late to the game, and staff used it. So staff would say, oh, I love this. This is why. And you only have to use a half scoop because it was clinically proven that a half a scoop works just as well as one scoop. And we have completely flipped the script on that. I mean, I still have Vital Proteins. I don't even order it every 4 months, maybe not even every 6 months now. I believe January was the last time I ordered it. And so I think you can use your own experience, the general, what's happening, the facts about what's happening. And then other people might have other ideas.
We've got time for 2 more questions.
So I think one of the things that I think about when a company goes to big business is how soon is a product going to be adulterated? Because as much as they want to stay where they're at, when they aren't the owner any longer, someone else is going to say, hey, we can get this cheaper over here. It might not be as good of a herb as this is, but we're going to use this because it'll go farther. So my question is always that, and I reiterate that to the customer. Right now, you might look at it and everything seems the same. Nothing has changed in the formula. But the question in my mind is always, when is it going to be adulterated?
Yeah, bingo. And actually, even if the supplements facts panel doesn't change, you know, as a brand, you can make a phone call to a raw material supplier and they've got grade A, grade B, grade C, grade D, and you are not going to be able to tell the difference. So you have to be able to look at the founder in the eye and figure out if there's some integrity there. And if the products work, stick with it. If the founder ends up, let's say, leaving for some unknown reason, I would start looking at them with a very skeptical eye, because the folks that are moving in probably paid quite a bit of money. And at some point, the MBAs are going to move in and they're going to start taking a look at profit margins and et cetera.
Yeah. So it just seems like the industry has just been financialized, and it's less about the consumer's health. It's just more about quarterly gains. Yeah, if you're a public company, the easiest way to make profits is just to cut a corner, use some cheaper raw materials, and boom, you have a 30% increase. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the industry has become financialized. In our stores, I like to always say we're looking for unique, boutique, and therapeutic brands. You know, unique based on innovation, boutique based on specialty, not sold in mass market, and then therapeutic. I'm not looking for a kitchen sink product. I'm looking for a product that's going to help the customer. They try it the first time, they're going to come back the second time because it made a difference in their lives. So that's a huge part in product selection as well, is you know, the efficacy of a product.
Yes, one of the items that there's been a lot of discussion on is pricing. And I know that I joined the Independent Natural Food Retailer Association probably 15, 20 years ago. And I know there's other people in here who are part of that, but they do a lot of negotiating on price and deals and things like that. And if you aren't a part of it, you might want to at least check into it. Independent Natural Food Retailer Association. They're not in competition with Maho or Soho or anything like that. It's just an extra tool that you'll have in your tool bag. And I found that I was able, when we had a lot of groceries, I was able to compete with the larger stores.
Okay. I think at this point, we're going to end up transitioning to the education piece. Thank you, guys. I have a lot of respect for these guys up here. They did a phenomenal job. Thanks for watching this video. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for future episodes, and good health to you.